Predicting what's going to happen in Russia over the next 6 months, let alone 6 years, is a bit of a mug's game. But having heard Alexander's remarks, I thought it made sense for me to focus a bit on what we might expect. As His Royal Highness said, December parliamentary elections and March 2012 presidential elections will set the direction for a while at least. Russian and Western analysts tend to set out a range of options from modest to good growth to stagnation with modernization failing. Prospects, it seems to me, depend largely on 3 things: the extent to which Russia seriously grips the modernization, privatization, and diversification agenda that it set out, underpinned by better respect for rule of law, the oil price, and investor appetite for more risk in what is essentially a more difficult global economy. President Medvedev and Prime Minister Putin both see modernization as essential for Russia's future, and by that they are really looking at economic modernization. The challenges that Russia faces to deliver this have been set out at length by both of them, most recently by President Medvedev in his speech last week to the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, where he talked about the need to tackle bureaucracy, corruption, to renew infrastructure, to get away from over-dependence on energy resources, and to develop a stronger culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. Demographically, Russia is set to lose 1 million in its working population per annum between now and 2017. And to Finance Minister Kudrin, certainly, the amount of money going on social expenditure in the Russian budget is not sustainable for the future. Pensions make up around 28% of the federal budget, and there's about $100 billion hole in the pension fund, not something that other countries are immune from, shall we say. So economically, Russia, according to various analysts, looks set to grow by about 3 to 5% annually in the next 6 years or so. Now, most politicians would kill for that. That looks really good. But given the challenges President Medvedev and Prime Minister Putin have set out, a lot of people argue that at best that will deliver stagnation without fundamental changes to the Russian economic model. Inflation is at 9.6%, and Russia is well aware that it needs to channel oil windfalls carefully to prevent further upward pressure. The budget is predicated on oil at 75 barrels a dollar for this year and $78 a barrel for 2012. So if the oil price stays high, as it is now, that will certainly help to wipe out the budget deficit and to build reserves. But high oil prices also lessen the imperative for fundamental change. Currently, the Russian budget breaks even at around oil of $115 per barrel. So you can see why Finance Minister Kudrin wants to get more of a grip on the social expenditure. Russia will also probably see net capital outflow in 2011. The mood is a bit nervous right now, as people are unsure what to expect after the presidential elections. And as Kudrin said recently, Russia needs long-term investment, not hot money, which has been a feature of past surges of growth. Presidential aide Arkady Dvorkovich told us last week at the forum that he thinks Russia needs investment to rise by 50% in the next few years to deliver 2% of growth. And as the ambassador mentioned, the Russians are coming forward with really imaginative new initiatives. The Russian Direct Investment Fund, which is aiming to partner foreign and Russian investors to help deliver that much-needed investment. Medvedev has also pressed for diversification of the economy, as you know, focusing on energy efficiency, space, related telecoms, pharmaceuticals, and IT. And we're working with the Russians on his ambitious plans on Skolkovo, the Russian Silicon Valley, as well. The government also recently published a strategy on innovation to 2020 to try to double the innovation sector's share of GDP to 20% and get at least 5 Russian academic institutions into the world top 200. Currently, there are none. To deliver that, there needs to be a real push to encourage innovation in education and business, more research and development, and closer partnerships between education and business. The British Council have launched a new program to help work with the Russians to give them examples of where we in the UK have made partnerships between universities and business much tighter. And I'm glad to say there are a number of really good examples now coming forward. Glyndŵr University in the UK has a partnership with Bauman's, very famous Russian university, to help research and develop composite materials for the aviation industry. Those are the sorts of partnerships we want to work on in the future, because Russia has no shortage of amazing brain power, and it's harnessing that brain power to commercialization of good ideas, which is the way forward. I would say also that agreement on WTO membership would need to be achieved this summer, according to Russian officials, or it will become hostage to the electoral cycle. And if it is achieved and Russia exceeds, I think that will give a strong indication of Russia's future direction. However, there are divided opinions on WTO membership amongst the elite, so it's not a foregone conclusion that Russia will join this year. As for the future of the tandem, if I'm allowed to say a word about that, God may know what's going to happen, but I certainly don't. There are endless speculations and many permutations, from the tandem continuing in its current form to Putin becoming president again, with either Finance Minister Kudrin or Deputy Prime Minister Shuvalov as Prime Minister. But ultimately, I think the decision is not likely to be made before the United Russia Congress meeting in December. Probably that will be when we know. But whoever becomes president will be doing so against a much less promising fiscal background, I've set that out, but with real showcase events to deliver. We've mentioned Sochi 2014 Olympics. There's 2015, I think it is, maybe 14 Formula One. 2016 World Ice Hockey Championships. 2018 World Cup. All of that will drive forward major infrastructure development and major cooperation. We have a host-to-host agreement with the Russians on the Olympics. We're doing a lot of work with them on our respective Olympic Games. And we hope to have a similar agreement with them on World Cup cooperation. And this isn't just about, we know about football and it's great to share all that enthusiasm. It's about design of stadia, it's about how you control crowds, security, infrastructure, and in all those areas, British companies have won very good business around the Sochi Games already. It's been mentioned, I think, by the ambassador that the Lord Mayor of London will visit Moscow and St. Petersburg from 26th to 30th of June on what is now an annual visit. And he's bringing with him a delegation of around 30 people, some of them here today. It's going to focus on raising capital, on private equity, and on legal cooperation. The launch of the City UK-Russia liaison group to support Moscow's aspirations to become an international financial centre will enable us to showcase UK financial and legal expertise on subjects as diverse as alternative dispute resolution and derivatives. The Lord Mayor will also open English Law Week in Russia. That's a major area for our cooperation now, and speak at events on capital markets and investment. He'll see the new mayor of Moscow as well and the governor of the central bank. The visit comes after Lord Green's visit last week to the St. Petersburg Economic Forum. And I really want to end on that note. The forum has really come to into its own since it was launched in 1997. Most of the Russian government, Russian business go there. It's a very showcase for where Russia is headed, and it leaves you full of enthusiasm, full of optimism for the future. There is no doubt that Russia has come a long, long way over the last 10 years alone. And now that we're through the worst of the economic crisis, as the ambassador said, UK exports are really picking up. They were 51% up in 2010 over 29. They're already to date this year up 87% on last year. So business certainly sees the prospects in Russia as good and are really pursuing all the opportunities. Ultimately, I always believe that the important point for UK-Russia relations is to keep markets open, to keep people flowing in both directions, and to ensure we have high-level bilateral dialogues. And notwithstanding the problems we've had in the relationship in the past, I'm really glad that we are now engaging properly and concretely through the Trade and Investment Steering Committee that looks at opportunities and barriers to cooperation, headed on our side by Vince Cable and on theirs by Kudrin. And the fact that the Prime Minister is going there in September is quite a key moment for the relationship. There has been no bilateral visit by a British Prime Minister to Russia since 2005, although Blair was at the G8 summit in St. Petersburg in 2006. So that's a major moment to set all our aspirations and plans for the next 6 years or so. Thank you. I'll stop there. Thank you very much.